Alright, you ass blasters, it's time to finish up the Tremors franchise with part 6. I already reviewed part 7. That's how I started this franchise. 7, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's end this with 6. A Cold Day in Hell. Well, actually, it's not called part 6. They finally dropped the number. Part 5 was actually called part 5, but this one's just called A Cold Day in Hell. Why? Because this one takes place in the Arctic, which is a different change of pace. It's a new setting, which is my first positive. There we go. I like that they finally decided to do something a little bit different with the setting. Part 7 did do a tropical setting. This one does the Arctic setting. There's snow in the opening, but then it's in an area where there's not snow, so that's unfortunate. I wish they would have kept the snow environment there, but it's still cold. They're all wearing thick clothing, so it's no longer in the desert anymore. So that's cool. It freshens things up a bit. Burt in this one is still good, as always, and this time around, he seems to be more like a drill sergeant. He's always barking orders. He's, check the perimeter. He's got one-liners galore. Like, he is just, every line out of his mouth in this one is like a one-liner. He's constantly trying to crack jokes, not on purpose, but like everything he says is meant to be funny. It just seems like they were trying way too hard to make him funny in this one. But I don't mind it because it's a step up from part 5. And I like Travis better in this movie also. I like his relationship with Burt way better in this one in part 5. I didn't really care about a lot of the dialogue between them in this one. They're like a father and son more. They're bickering. He's trying to teach him the ropes. Teach me how to kill graboids, Dad. I just like their duo in this movie way better than part 5. And by the end of the movie, Travis basically becomes the new Burt. Burt kind of has to sit the third act out because of reasons, and he puts on the cap and the glasses, and he becomes the new Burt. And I like that. I like that they, gave the reins to him. They made him the leader instead of Burt. And I like that this one tried to have a little bit more fun in the second half of the movie. It was trying to be a little bit more silly with the one-liners and some of the music choices. Just there was a lot more, fun entertainment to be had in the second half of this movie than the second half of part 5. You don't have to suspend disbelief as much. And I think because I went into this with the lowest expectations, I didn't hate it as much as I thought it was going to. I thought it was going to be boring as shit, just a terrible CGI fest with no humor, but, that lands. But I actually had a decent time with this one. It was just the first half that was a little shaky for me. And I like that this movie gives you, finally, a legit good reason to capture a graboid. It's been done a couple of times before where they're like, we need you to capture them, don't kill them. It's like, no, just kill them. And this one, they give you an explanation about why it is important and critical that they capture, not kill. Now, for the bad things, this movie is basically 99% CGI, once again, and it's still not that good looking. There's definitely some shoddy moments with the CGI. It's not as bad as 3. That's the worst so far. Actually, I've seen them all now, so I can say definitively part 3 has the worst CGI and way too much. And there's just a lot of cringy dialogue, lots of exposition dumps and just forced humor here and there that didn't land. So I wasn't a fan of a lot of the dialogue in here, and they don't have any shriekers in the movie. Not in part 5 either. I didn't say that in my review, but I should have. I'm saying it now. Where are the shriekers? Why were they only in 2 and 3? Were they in 4? No, they introduced like the new dragon dirt thing. Like, where have the shriekers been? Why are we skipping that step in the evolution of these graboids? I thought, graboids and shriekers, then ass blasters. We see an ass blaster in this movie for about 1 or 2 scenes very quick, and then it's just about the 3 graboids. What happened to the shriekers? What happened to the things that were introduced in part 4? What happened to the detached tongues that were introduced in part 5? Why isn't that still here? The tongues are no longer detached. Is it because this is a different graboid that can survive in the cold or something? Like, I don't get it. Where is the continuity with this graboid? But overall, I thought it wasn't as bad as everyone says. I actually had some fun in the second half of this movie. The first half, not so much. But Burt is still a strong, fun character. A lot more one-liners from him in this one. I liked his relationship with his son a lot more in this one. And the second half just has a little bit more action in it comparatively to some of the other ones like 3 and 5 that I didn't like the second half at all. This one has some better action sequences. Unfortunately, just too much CGI, not enough practical, some cringy dialogue. But overall, I had a decent time. But it's nowhere near the best Tremors movie. But still, if you're a Tremors fan and you're wondering if this one's worth checking out, maybe. So when it comes to Tremors A Cold Day in Hell, maybe consider streaming this one or renting it at Redbox. So we get a very similar opening like part 5, and this opening does not set the right tone. This one makes it seem like it's going to be like a horror movie, and it's going to be limbs flying everywhere. Which, why do these graboids never eat these people whole? They're leaving half testicles, apparently. It's just like, finish the food. They're throwing arms everywhere, just like in the beginning of part 5. Same opening here. And this guy gets dragged across the snow, very similar to the guy in part 1 who was working on the road with the jackhammer thing. So I think that was on purpose. And then we find out that Burt now is in control of the Chang store. He still lives in perfection. And we see all these limbs strewn about. We see a severed head, some gore here. And they say that the graboids are daytime hunters. Did they watch the other movies where it was nighttime and they were still attacking them? Like part 4 especially? They're not daytime hunters? That doesn't make sense. Is it just these graboids that are daytime hunters? Because the other ones were not. And of course, we gotta have Burt be the one that's hired because nobody else is capable of shooting graboids. Just Burt. They have his number on speed dial. They call him up at the store. Hey, we need you. And I just so happen to be Val's daughter in Canada. It's like, that was not needed. That was just in there, forced in there for the fans to be like, oh my god, it's Val's daughter. I would rather just have Val, not his daughter. And then this ass blaster crashes right into their plane, and somehow they just survive that, like with their motor gone, and like they crash land where they were supposed to be landing anyways. That seems convenient because as soon as they land, a car like immediately pulls up, and it's like the bad guys, the antagonists, the human antagonists. And then within a minute later, the other protagonists show up. So it's like they were supposed to land there. That just seems convenient. Like that's when they're playing like broke. It was like, oh, it doesn't matter because we're landing here anyways. And then we find out that climate change is to blame for the graboids awakening in the Arctic. How do we know it's not crab people or man bear pig that's responsible? And then DARPA, it's hinted at that maybe they're weaponizing the graboids, or that's their plan to make bioweapons with them. But it kind of makes you think that maybe Burt's just out of his mind. He's a conspiracy theorist. But by the end of the movie, you find out that no, they were trying to weaponize the graboids. Burt starts getting disoriented. He starts like panicking, or he's like freezing up. He's in pain. And I like how the guy behind him that he told to man up and get a set of balls of steel, he starts like mimicking him. He told him to be his shadow, so he's like mocking Burt in pain right behind him. I was confused at first because I thought that they were both like having episodes and something was in the air and they're like, ah. I was like, what's going on? Is there like some kind of sonic wave that's like causing him to go crazy? But no, that guy was just mimicking Burt in pain. And then we find out that because of Burt being swallowed in part 3, that now, all these years later, like 10, 15 years later, it's finally catching up to him. And he's got a graboid parasite in him that's causing him to go through this, causing him to have intestinal issues or something. He starts bleeding in his one eye again and again. So that's why now they have to capture a graboid. They have to capture a graboid to get the blood of it, and it has to be alive when they do it so that it can work. They gotta inject graboid blood into Burt so that he can not be sick no more, yada yada yada. So I guess that makes sense. Now they gotta capture the graboid. They can't just kill them. So then this hot babe, all the women in this movie, by the way, are stunning, but one of the hottest chicks in the movie starts getting pulled through the window, but there's all this time where she could have been saved, and you got like 3 or 4 guys in the other room, one of them being Val's daughter, just staring in shock. But then throughout the rest of the movie, they're no longer pansies, and they're like trying to save people, like the green hat guy who just watched this girl get eaten, and he could have helped prevented that. After that scene of being a coward, he's just this hero all of a sudden. He's chasing after this one pansy doctor, like, don't go, don't get in the car. It's like, where were these balls of steel when this hot babe was getting pulled through the window? It's your fault. And then this pilot, her name is Mac, and is that because, it's the Arctic, kind of like the Thing? Is she like Macready? Is she Mac? Is that what that is? She's supposed to be Kurt Russell. Travis goes from a dirt bike expert in part 5, and now in this one, he's a four-wheeler expert. He gets on the ATV, I think, puts some dynamite on it, creates a trap, and kills one of the graboids. Then we get this moment where we find out that this other hot babe is going commando. She has no underwear on. But at first you think that she's going to lose her pants, and it's going to like replay that joke in part 1 with Val's mom when she loses her pants. You think that joke's about to happen again, but she's like, I ain't got no underwear on. And then there's this whole like piss diversion, guy pissing off of the tower. They start running, and then we have an inconvenient episode again with Burt. It's like, wrong time to be having that little seizure of his. And I hate in movies where they show you electricity. Like, we get that electricity is flowing through the wires. You don't need to show the actual electricity on the outside of the wires. Like, it just always looks silly. It looks like a cartoon. It's bad. Stop showing it. And then, for some reason, the tower the green hat guy is on is, like, lowering for some reason. And even though he's not making any noise at all, he's just hanging there. The graboids are, like, going out of the ground. The tongues are coming out. They're trying to grab him while he's hanging. It's like, he wasn't making any noise. He wasn't moving. He's just hanging off of a metal beam. Like, he's not... I thought they couldn't see. That doesn't make sense. Then this one guy just has all kinds of TNT. He's out there in the field, like, throwing TNT everywhere, and it's just blowing up. They got a corny song playing over it. It's the goofiest moment in the movie. But it's like, he's still, like, running around. Like, wouldn't they be able to kill him? Like, if this movie was realistic at all, they all would have died. Like, as soon as they got there, they would have died. And then we get to the moment where Travis becomes the new Burt. He's gearing up. He puts on the Cubs hat in the shades, and then he starts quoting lines from Burt, and then he quotes the balls of steel line, which is something that he couldn't have heard because that was only said between Burt and that one chicken. Is it something that Burt says to everybody? It's like a common thing. He quotes a line that he could not have possibly heard. And then they set up this big plan with the balls making the vibration, the things that were in Dream Warriors. And they have like this big metal cage. It hops in, and then for some reason, it can't close its mouth once it's in there. I didn't get that. Like, there's these metal beams, I guess, that's like keeping its mouth open. How? Like, we've seen how strong the mouth of these graboids are in the past. How they've taken down trucks. They've taken down whole buildings and tractors and shit. Like, this does not make sense. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, it's just written this way so that Travis can get inside the mouth and get the liquid that he needs, the blood or whatever, to save his dad. I get it, but it's like, no, like, he would have gotten eaten, So I don't understand how the mouth couldn't close. And then we get a funny line that's funny because of part 7, where Travis, he says to his dad, like, how do you not die? Can you die? Or something, I don't know, something like that. He's like, you never die. And it's like, hard cut, part 7, he dies. Spoiler for that movie. So it's like, that was just kind of a funny line. I did think it was really silly and kind of dumb how they were like playing tag team with the tongues. Like, all right, you try to get the tongues killed. Like, just shoot them. Like, they're like trying to use a machete. One guy's trying to use this and that. And then finally Burt comes out with his HK-91 and blasts them away. Like, you morons, just shoot them. It's like, yeah. It's like, it's silly because it's unrealistic. Like, no one would get that close to the tongues. I could easily like pull your ass right in. Just use a gun. Why get so close and be stupid? Now the graboids can puke and burp, and I don't get how Burt's infected and now Travis isn't. Like, he should be, because I thought the explanation was because he was inside the graboid and had all the mucus and all the stuff of the graboid like in his eyes, and he got in his system. That's why he's infected. Well, Travis, he should be infected because he gets puked on and spat on again and again, and then he gets in the belly of the beast to save his dad. All that shit on him, it must have gotten in his eyes. It had to get in his system. Like, he needs to get checked. because I'm sure he has a parasite in him now. And then we get the reveal that DARP is really, or DARPA, whatever they're called, DARP. It's like that guy in Hot Fuzz. YARP? NARP? We find out that they are indeed trying to make weapons, and they blow up the last graboid, like, fuck you, you ain't weaponizing it. And then Travis gets the girl, like they always do in the earlier films. They always get the girl at the end. And lucky son of a bitch, this chick is stunning as hell. I'm jealous. The Hockey Mask Award for best character in this movie will go to Travis. He's got the best lines. I like that he becomes the new Burt. I like his chemistry with his dad in this one better. The Hinky Award for worst character in this movie is the antagonist. He's an unnecessary character. We don't need him. All that DARP shit, DARPA whatever, is just unnecessary in the end. And the clap award for best scene in this movie is the setting up the trap, capturing the graboid, and getting all the liquids out of the mouth or whatnot when Travis gets in there. And it's the only moment of like real practical effects that I noticed with the graboid. And the Funny Bone Award for funniest moment in this movie is the whole balls of steel speech that Burt gives to that chicken. I got the Guinness World Record of balls. And those are my thoughts on Tremors 6. Keep an eye out for my Tremors ranking here shortly. And as always, put your thoughts of this movie in the comments below. And hit this like button if you liked what you've seen here, and become a subscriber today just by clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds. And until next time, auf Wiedersehen.